our full council meeting for the 27th of February, 2025. We'll open the meeting with a KARAKIA.
Kia ora, councillors. Whakataka te hau ki te uru. Whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia makinakina ki uta. Kia mataratara ki tai. He aka ana te atakura. He tio, he huka, he hohu, tihe, mauri ora.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, we've got a few items on our agenda today, but I think we should still be able to make fairly reasonable time, and I'd anticipate us being finished up before lunch today. So we'll start with, we've got our health and safety statement. I don't see anybody new in the room who hasn't seen this statement before, so we'll take it as read. Apologies, have we got any apologies for the meeting today? Just noting that in the chamber, we have Councillors Hodge, Smith, Strange, Nicol, Kneebone, Downard, Cookson, Marr, Hughes, and Clarkson, and myself. Online, we have Councillor Graff. And Councillor Dunbar-Smith is online as well. If there's no apologies, we'll move on to confirmation of the agenda. Do I have a mover? Councillor Clarkson, seconded Councillor Marr. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Disclosures of interest. Any disclosures of interest with regards to the items before council today or new disclosures? Nope. All right, we'll move on. We've got the council minutes. These are on pages 19. Is that 19 and 7? And so 7 and 19. For the council meetings on the 19th of December and on the 10th of February. Do I have a mover? Those are true and correct. Councillor Kneebone, Councillor Cookson as a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll move to the health and safety report. Oh, sorry. Gosh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Committee minutes. So we've got. Are we doing? Yeah.
Today, we have the following sets of minutes. We have the open minutes from the Chief Executive Employment and Remuneration Committee for confirmation. We have the receipt of the open minutes from the Future Proof Implementation Committee, and we are also looking to receive both open and public excluded minutes from the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group, Te NEHENEHENUI Co-Governance Forum, and the Waikato RAUPATU River Trust and Waikato Regional Council Co-Governance Committee.
Mover and Councillor Downard. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just briefly speak, and I did mention it today this morning, but the hyperlink for the future proof minutes isn't able to be opened. Just in future, if we can look at that, please.
We'll just and we'll send out a link to councillors just to make sure that you're able to access those. But I can attest that they are true and correct, as I was in attendance. Councillor Kneebone.
Just a comment, and I was just reflecting this morning from the Te NEHENEHENUI one, we had a couple of things come up, and I was thinking, I was wondering where we are with those, and it just occurred to me that with some of those co-governance who are only meeting every sort of 4 to 6 months, it'd be good to have a bit of a process where on some of those key actions, just an email got circulated or something, and I think it's something that the co-chairs of those committees should lead. So just flagging that it's something I intend to do, and probably wouldn't hurt for the rest of them as well. Yeah,
great.
Not looking for anything too comprehensive or demanding, but yeah.
And I suppose, and I know Councillor Nicol, you've raised this on these not just in reference to the JMA committees, but also to the other joint committees that we have, just being able to ensure that counselors who don't sit on those committees, like for instance, we've got civil defense, but we don't often as a council have, other than the minutes that come through and the opportunities we have to read the agendas and to listen to the meetings as they occur, that we might want to explore different ways to ensure that all counselors stay across the matters that are discussed at in particular, these joint committees, because often things will come through and it's important that all counselors understand the subject matters that are being discussed and the issues that are being raised. Councillor Strange, did you have a?
Yeah, just sort of to add to that as well. I know in the past we have discussed chairs reports, which for these kind of committees are really important. Yeah, it should be onerous on the chairs of those committees or co-chairs to keep everyone up to date and across all those issues. So would like to see something like that moving forward. Thanks.
Sure. And even, I suppose, the joint committees where our representative is not necessarily the chair, like CEDAM, it would be really helpful for us to understand. I know they had a workshop recently, and for those of us who weren't able to attend, even though we're not members of that, it would be helpful for us to stay across those and make sure that we understand any indication of decisions that inevitably land in front of this council. It's helpful if we understand what's leading to them. Okay, with those points, Councillor Hodge?
Just quickly, I have a meeting this afternoon with CEDAM about the advisory co-government committee, and I wondered how much Tipper and Mikael are over that as well. So this is a new thing that's happening, and the conversation, I gave them some advice. So, you know, that I'm not sure whether that comes under the umbrella or not.
Is that in your role as a councillor at WRC or as the chair of Raukawa?
No, as a councillor, it was around the Māori perspective of CEDAM, that out of that fell an advisory kind of group. And they're just talking to me about what the next steps might be. So I just want to let you know, yeah, it's not about Raukawa, it's about me as a councillor.
Just looking to see if we need any further commentary around that, or we'll just note that. But I do think in particular that committee would be very useful for this council to have either a update of some sort, because I know we've had to approve through our budgeting processes funding for that, and it would be helpful if we can stay across that. All right, so we'll note that as an action for us to sorry.
Wrong one. The CEDAM meeting the other day, I sat in the background and listened. And is what they discussed the other day, is that going to come back to a workshop for us to understand the whole complex of what they were talking about or not?
I didn't attend the meeting, so I'm not sure what was discussed. I don't know. Councillor Downard, if you wanted to, I know you're the alternate. We don't have Councillor Mahuta to speak to it, but if you.
Yeah, it's
nice.
Yeah, so obviously it's a CD action plan or plan. There has been consultation through the JMAs with Marydon, but my point in the whole meeting was that that they're looking at grassroots upwards rather than downwards, and I want mechanisms, whatever they put in the plan, the staff, I want mechanism there that we can address those, because a lot of the wording in the plan, and I know it's not finalised because I think the finalised of the act comes out in 2026. So yeah, there's a lot of fancy words in there like empowering and stuff like that, and I just want more suitable words that we actually can do stuff. I know that's resourcing and stuff like that, but it's then, instead of being a sheriff, or my allergy was, instead of being a sheriff where we smack someone that's not, that we think that's not completing their responsibilities in TAs. And it goes right down to infrastructure. We talked about infrastructure and flooding and stuff like that, where, they might have done a subdivision where they shouldn't have, or whether they haven't cleaned out the culverts for a massive rainfall and those things. So yeah, it's just firming up those words in the plan that we can support, marriedom and TAs and getting their job done.
Nice, thank you. Thank you for that. Councillor Mahuta, as our appointed councillor on the CEDAM committee, did you want to make any comment about that workshop? Just have been questions that have come through.
I don't know. I'm hoping you can hear me. Sorry, Pamela.
Yes, I can.
Oh, no, apologies. I didn't get to attend the thing, but I have been briefed by staff. I support councillors Downer's statements that we do things that are possible rather than, set the aspiration so high no one knows whether we're achieving it or not. But I would like to say that as a network strategy, working with iwi just makes sense unless we want to go to the 67 marae of Waikato or the 34 of Hauraki, Kei Te Whera. It's good to enter the door through iwi as the organising principle. And if, as it played out through COVID, they networked the strategy, it didn't take away from what local communities needed to achieve. So tautoko au, and I'd second the resolution. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. And Councillor Mahuta, I don't know if you heard the earlier conversations, but we were talking about these joint committees that we have and how do we make sure that all of our councillors stay aware of the items that are coming before that committee, in particular items that will eventually come before our council. Especially when we're talking about funding issues. So just looking, we've noted an action point to look at ways that we can ensure that the information is coming through to our council so that we're in a position to make a solid decision should that be asked of us. All right, so we've got a mover.
Yeah, and just on that point, Pamela, I just wondered if that's the way we're recording the JMAs, in terms of just record rather than the key issues arising from a summary paper of all of them might be helpful just to the future. Thank you.
And I know that we have received that feedback at our JMAs. So so we'll certainly note that for our democracy team. Okay, we've got a mover and a seconder for confirmation or receipt of these minutes. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now we will move to item 7.1. This is our health and safety report. This is on page 90 of your agendas. And we have Stu Brown to speak to this report. Welcome, Stu.
Good morning, Madam Chair and councillors. I'll take you through the report. I'll take it as read, but there's a few points that I'm keen to draw your attention to. You'll see that the EcoStore incident with the chemical burns to the employees' eyes was pretty significant, and they chose to take an enforceable undertaking and a significant dollar amount towards that, along with a range of other actions. So that just shows the significance when things go wrong and what is required to go some way to putting that right. It's important to recognise that Council has excellent processes in place around our PPE and the checks of that and ensuring that it's fit for purpose and that people that work for us understand when and how that they should use it. You'll see the events reported again over the 2 months we had the break, so we've got 2 months worth through. Something to note as part of that is the in-reach technical issues. You'll see in both months there are 3 in one and I think 1 in the other. And it was just to let you know that that's technical issues that the teams are working through with the functionality of those tools. But the important thing to note is the SOS function works regardless, so that they're always safe out there with that device. Something else that's important to note, we have engaged Vertical Horizons. They're going to come in and provide investigation and risk management training for us, which will also help in the review of these events as they come up. You'll see in point 26 that we've had a few more health and safety leadership walkarounds with the executive. Brent and myself went up to Whirianga and had a look at the new vessel, and the team took us out and did a really comprehensive job of talking us through the safety on the vessel, working around water and the threats of violence and aggression, and just the different instances that they come across with that, whether it's people living on boats or putting out markers or issuing enforcement around things that they see that are less desirable out there. So the team are doing a fantastic job in that space, and it was really pleasing to see. You'll see that we have a Safe Plus audit coming up. We've been working towards that. 3 areas of the business will be audited later on in June. So it's a significant audit for us. We got developing the last time round in 2020, and we're hoping to get performing this time. It is worth noting that we do need to have 100% pass rate to achieve that. So it's not an insignificant task, and there'll be a great deal of effort put into achieving that. You'll see there that we've had the health and safety due diligence plan come before the executive and be approved. I know that Chris is going to talk to the chair and about that, and we'll take that forward with you. And a real positive was the integrated catchment back to work health and safety days that were held. I've got hopefully a picture for you. Dave might have that for me, just showing what went on at those days. I've kind of outlined them in the report. They're really positive days for the team, a great way to start the year off again after the break and cover off many of the safety aspects of the work that we do. So it's good just to be able to visualize that and see what goes on there. That was really good days, great deal of engagement, and overall very positive.
Could I just jump in there? That picture of the car.
Yep.
That car, I think, came out of the building as I came in this morning, and very slowly, and I couldn't read what's on there. And even just looking at that picture now, I can't read what that is. So there's a B and I couldn't get.
And Reuben, safety bear.
Reuben the bear, but I just to make the point, I've got new glasses, so I know I can see.
We'll talk to our graphic designers.
Is that big enough to,
Yeah,
just make the point. I couldn't work out what the message was, but I have seen the car stationary and read it.
Yes.
It just quietly coming up. Couldn't understand. There's too much yellow. So I'll just make that point.
I'm glad it came out of the car park slowly and hopefully stopped at the stop sign. So I'm happy about that. I can talk to our graphic designers about the graphics for you. Yeah. Yeah. So just to note that went really well. I've a couple of other pictures that aren't in the report, but I just wanted to share with you. I know probably 6 months ago now, I talked about our assets out there in the ICM space. With a couple of thousand of them, and they're aging assets and have different safety requirements around them. The team have pulled together priorities, around 300 priorities out of the couple of thousand that we've got from a safety perspective around fall prevention, trips and other hazards, and they're working their way through. We have a meeting with Director Greg, myself and the SLT and some of the ops team leaders each month to go through and track the progress of this. So we're about 8 months in and we have achieved 63% of the almost 300 assets that need to be reviewed and fixed up from a safety perspective. And I just wanted to share the photograph there of the work that's being done. It's worth noting that the teams are really engaged in this. They're going out to look at fall prevention, but they go out with an open mind to look at the complete asset and what else that they might be able to achieve as they do that. So I just wanted to note that good work that's ongoing and that we continue to progress. That was really the key points of the report.
I've
Take
got
questions.
Councillor Smith, Councillor Downard, Councillor Hughes, and then, Councillor Smith, Cookson, Hughes,
I've got
and
two
then
issues. The first one was on the PPE. You talked about excellent processes and the like. So I don't want the detail, but the reality is if equipment's wearing out, if it's, excuse me, broken, is it easy for staff to just get it replaced? There's no, barriers to, keeping things up to date so that the culture is, if you need it, we replace it and bang.
Completely. We've got excellent processes and support around that across the organisation. You'll find things like when you go out on site, there's a requirement to have a helmet that's within date. Things like that will expire. So we do have processes in place to review that. And obviously, if things are broken, they're replaced immediately. And if they're not available, the work doesn't continue without them.
Second issue is, I knew this was happening, but I hadn't seen anything to date. But it says restricted entry, authorised persons only. That just looks like you can walk straight down there and go in anyway. How does that fit with mitigate, eliminate, or the other one? So how does that, when I don't want to see hundreds of thousands of dollars spent excluding people, but to me, that sign's worthless because anybody can just walk down there and anything can happen.
I think that's, it's a good point. But it's due to the nature of the work that we do, and a couple of thousand assets out there. Many of them are in rural locations. Many of them are in view of public, and we have to do what's reasonably practicable. I mean, if you were to make that totally not accessible, we would be spending millions of dollars across the thousands of assets. That's not a practical
the other issue, you walk 10 feet the other way and there's a bank and you can just go in anyway.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah, it makes a mockery of the system.
We're doing our best around the asset. Something else just to point out on the picture, you'll see that the steelwork there is completed with joints and steel with bolts. Historically, we have engaged engineers and engineering delivery teams to come out and do that work, which requires design and fabrication and then implementation on site. This is now being completed often by the teams themselves at a much reduced cost. So it achieves the same goal, but with a significant benefit to the ratepayer, which obviously isn't a safety issue, but it's just worth noting that the teams are thinking about that kind of thing as well.
Councillor Cookson.
I was down at actually Piparoa last night till 7 o'clock looking at a site. And in that site, I was actually quite confused because you've put safety railing in front of the flood pump, but it's just bolted to the grate. It actually isn't, the posts aren't actually into anything structural. So anyone can come along and actually just bend the poles over. And so it was actually, and then there was, I'll take this offline later. I'd like to know if when the staff are working there, are they actually on a rope or anything that if they fall in the water or not? Because actually, it was very confusing what you were going to benefit for what we've done, because it didn't look to be an anchor for anyone to be tied to a rope or anything of any safety thing, but there was a single barrier across it that you could grab the two posts and pull it over and bend them to the ground. So I'm really just struggling with how that was designed, but I can take that offline because I think it's definitely not best practice.
Well, I would love to look at that. I'm not across
Yeah,
that
but
one,
if you're
we'll pick
down
that
the
up.
Parao or down the lower Araki one day, I think we should go and have a look at it. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could just make a comment that if any councillors have any observations, it's part of your responsibilities to actually pass that sort of thing on. So we would welcome any of those observations that you have. Yeah, no. But as a general, we'd welcome that type of observation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Councillor Smith's actually picked up on my point that I was going to make. I just hope we're not spending a lot of money on these things because, you walk 10 metres either side of that and you can jump in the river and drown yourself anyway. Very simple. And it reminds me very much of the stupidity and futility of the council coming and checking my security of my swimming pool. If somebody wants to drown themselves, they've just got to walk across the path and jump into the river. I suspect they're going to do, I appreciate that. I can suspect that the river's an easier way of going than jumping in the pool. But yeah, I'm just encouraging us that we we be sensible about what we're spending money on, because that sort of thing there looks expensive, and I'm not sure what we're trying to achieve at the end of the day.
Yes.
Madam Chair, if I could just comment on that. Obviously, some people think that's not enough. Some people think that's too much. I guess that we try and engage expertise to advise us on what we need. I take your point. What do the regulations require? You know, I understand the government's looking at that, but at the end of the day, if it's a work site where we have our staff go on, or we have people that we engage who need to go and work on that site, sometimes under very difficult conditions, I would say we have an obligation anyway to make sure they can do that work safely.
I do wonder when our teams are going out and installing these, because I've had a fair few calls in response to the work that's been undertaken. Do they are they well equipped to talk to landowners and explain why we do things the way we do, what the rationale is, what the motivation is, what the legislative drivers are? And also our obligations and approach as a council? Are they having those conversations so that landowners have confidence afterwards that this is a good spend of ratepayer money?
Yeah, they are. And I guess that's why I specifically picked up on the cost effectiveness of this design and build. Just that historically, you know, it would have been more costly to engage an engineering team to design and produce that, versus our on the ground team can go out and achieve the same thing for a much greater saving, I guess. And as far as engaging with the landowners, you know, a lot of the team have been around for quite a while. They know a lot of the landowners. There is good engagement there. There's lots of discussion around going out and engaging with landowners. And, you know, if things don't go well, or if that conversation doesn't go as expected, to come back and obviously escalate that so it can be followed up with the landowner, with somebody in a more senior position. So I'm comfortable in that space.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Downard. So I've got Councillor Downard, Councillor Marr, Councillor Nicol.
Stu, mine's just a quick one. Thanks for a report, very thorough. Just on your conclusion, the one critical risk, threat, aggression, the review, can you just give me just a little bit more on that? Is it getting done, a review done because you don't think it's robust, or?
No. So our critical risks, we do review them, as you know, in a cadence, and you'll see that. I think there's a table there in the report, just with our bow tie status. I think it's under 29.
95,
yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
page
page
95.
5 of the report. Yeah. So no, that's just part of our normal process to go through and review these risks that we have identified and see if there's anything that we need to improve as we go. But yeah, I'm happy to bring back the findings of that review.
Yeah, I think that's quite an important one, especially in the way the world is now. You know, a lot of people's fuses on, and we want to make sure that the staff don't get, you know, in that situation, and what we can do to prevent it.
That's right. Thank you.
Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Stu, I'd just like to follow up on Chris McClay's comments. I congratulate staff working in this space and around our assets, noting that it is about our assets. And there's certainly plenty in the media on WorkSafe and how they're more than happy to prosecute on lack of work around risk. So yeah, from my standing point, more than happy to see this thing without and hearing that staff are actually being able to assemble this sort of stuff ourselves for cost savings. So more than supportive. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Nicol.
Yeah, and good report, thanks. And I also like the staff involvement, because it's nice to be involved in your work, all parts of it. And I just wanted to say I like the leadership walk around table you've got there. I like that there's a bit of detail, because I could tell from the table you could have easily just had the graph and it looks like 3, but actually it was 2 visits from the detail. So and I like the detail that you've given there in that first row. It's detail like that is really useful, just to try and paint a picture of the day, rather than just like good day out, you know. So that's been really useful to try and make it a bit more real, rather than, especially when the numbers are smallish for how big we are. Well, maybe not relative to other organisations, but it's discrete events that can have a bit of detail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Cookson, did you have another point to make?
Is that I think everyone needs just to be aware that I think all the photos I've seen are in a tidal zone. That to fix the floodgate, it has to be at a low tide. So this could be at hours of any time at night. So there is the obligation that we're putting them in a safe place in a dark environment and stuff like that. So I think that's the measure that you most probably haven't said in the story, that these are we've got no say when we may have to be here and what weather event we're in. So I think that's really vital that this is making the access, all weather access and all hour access to that site. It's different in a day, but they may be working at midnight in that spot. So I think that's really important to point out. Thank you.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Councillor Kneebone.
Oh, it was just, and you've probably seen it, I know it came up a few months ago, but I see the Ports of Auckland CEX got fined the other day, quite significant. And you guys did a bit of a review of some of the failings there, I think, didn't you?
That's right. Yeah, no, it was pretty significant fine for New Zealand.
Yeah.
And it comes back to that due diligence again and actually checking work is as said, you know, it's the show me really. Yeah.
There was another interesting, quite tragic one on the farm. A young farm staff member was doing an electric fence and it flicked up and hit a low power line and it killed him. And it just suddenly struck me that with our staff going onto farms and opening tape gates a lot, it's not that hard for them to flick up and hit a low power line. It's certainly the case in my situation too. So we've done it as an alert for the people on our place for the obvious reasons. So it probably, if it's not in our system, should probably go in as one of the. I'm happy to catch up. I'll send you the article if you want.
Oh, thank you. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Councillor Hodge.
Kia ora. A couple of things, you know, I've always been on about the health and well-being of all staff. The paperwork does talk about incidents outside, you know, out in the field and stuff. That's great. But I'd like to understand and make sure that we got the same emphasis for the staff inside, you know, because the well-being and health and well-being of staff should be all over. And one of the biggest things is mental health, as you know. And so you've got graphs in here of everything, but are we keeping tabs on all of that with all of our staff? Is there, you talk about violence in here, bullying on farm, blah, 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 but there's nothing about what might be happening inside. So it'd be good to know that you guys are over that as well, because I think the stability of our staff inside is just as important as those outside.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, there are a number of things that we've got to address that. And I guess you'll see the EAP statistics towards the end of the report around that. And that gives us a breakdown of, you know, the reasons that people are seeking that support and they've got access to that. It's worth noting that the events, you know, while we pick up some of the more significant things that happen on site, many of the events that are recorded are in the office, you know, some slips and trips. The lighting over the past year has been a bit of an issue for us that we've addressed through the property and facilities team. So we're looking at that, but staff wellbeing is an important thing for us. And, you know, ensuring that we have our managers equipped to manage workload and stress and support staff with things that they have going on at home as well as work. So yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, so that really comes back to that health and safety due diligence plan and I guess the responsibility of the governance in that. And we have a roles and responsibilities document that I'm happy to share and that we really clearly outline that. Yeah. Yeah.
And if I could just add to that, so absolutely your health and safety and well-being, you know, to be able to do elected members is just as important to us. And in the past, we have had to deal with issues where that's, you know, issues that have actually been raised with us with regards to it. And I guess that's partly why you've instigated your own sort of self-review as well, to be able to bring some of these things out. And if there's anything that we need to be aware of, I guess it would come through me or through Stu to, to help with in whatever way we would.
Thank you.
Just on that issue, in my previous life, some councillors were issued, what do you call them, bat phones, satellite phones, for the rural areas. Certainly work in the coastal areas where there's no phone coverage and the likes. I just raised that as some of the things that have been done by another council to ensure the councillors have access to support. Thanks.
And we do, as I recall, we do have, Tosh has a phone like you're referring to, one of them special ones always connected.
That's right. Yeah.
And
you're
that
quite
if
welcome to-
if a counselor is going out to a space where either they feel they might encounter something untoward or an area where there is limited coverage, that is available to counselors.
It is, as well as the InReach devices. They're quite welcome to take those, and they can drive your phone as well, which is great.
So just as an action point, it might be, because I'm not sure that all counselors were aware of that. So we'll make sure we get an email out to counselors just explaining the technology and how they might utilize it, should that be necessary. Yeah. Counselor Nickel?
Just curious, does, how often, because obviously staff join the organisation, get inducted an hour long or something, and then you could do like a refresher on some kind of regular interval. How often that refresher be for staff?
In general terms, I guess a lot.
Was it like annual or?
Yeah, a lot of it's role specific. So you come into the organization and you get an organizational induction, and then you'll go off to your specific area of the organization, and they'll have bespoke induction for that and the tasks that you'll do.
And do they get repeated? Because obviously if you're an employee for 10 years, it might be once every 10 years that you would have gotten that. Is there a repeat?
Yep, there is. We look at safety on a 6-monthly basis. So yeah, the teams are all engaged in that as they go through. So.
It might be worth having a think about the councillor repeat cycle, just from we only do it at the very start when we drink from a fire hose of other information. Whatever's suitable for this unique department.
Yeah, that's a good point. At what regularity do you feel like you yourselves need to be reminded not only of your responsibilities, but your own health and safety?
Yeah.
Yep. And just in response to your question, I'd probably add to it that all managers have a responsibility for their staff's health and safety and making sure they are completely up to speed of what and are safe to go and do their job. And we do survey staff and we do ask them, so I'm trying to think of the questions, that do they feel that the organisation and their managers committed to health and safety?
Right. We've got the Comply With Me survey every 6 months. Yeah.
And we get very positive responses
to
date.
Yeah.
All right. With that, I think we've covered that. Thank you. Moved in Councillor Downard and second with Councillor Hodge. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll now move to item 7.2. This is on page 99 of your agendas. Submission to Hamilton City Council Plan Change 14. And we have Miffy and Hannah.
Good morning, councillors. I'm Hannah Craven. With me today is Miffy. We are stepping in today for Leah, who was the author of the report. She's feeling unwell today. So the submission in front of you is in response to Hamilton City Council's proposed Plan Change 14. This plan change is about flooding mainly and making sure that urban areas and the community are resilient to flooding and extreme weather events. The plan provisions are not wholly new. Plan Change 14 is about strengthening the existing policy direction for areas affected by flooding information and updates existing stormwater management rules. The other key change in this plan change is the removal of detailed flood hazard maps from within the district plan. Instead, the district plan now refers back to the HCC GIS flood viewer platform, which relies on best available information and is able to be updated without having to change the district plan. The draft submission is overall very supportive of the plan change. It really is about just making some technical recommendations on specific provisions where changes could be made to improve clarity of certain definitions and to incorporate the use of threshold-based risk terminology to align with the wording in the Waikato Regional Policy Statement. The submission is largely technical, and unfortunately our technical experts are unable to be here today, but Miffy and I will attempt to answer any questions you have. And if we are unable to answer anything, we'll get back to you as soon as possible after we've clarified with our technical experts. With that, happy to take any questions.
Councillor Nicol.
Yep, no questions, thanks. Good report, pretty straightforward, and it makes sense they're updating themselves and you're getting specific about some of the technical stuff. So yeah, happy to move.
Madam Chair, can I just make a comment?
Oh, sorry, I've got Councillor Clarkson and then I'll come to you, Councillor Downer.
Yeah, thanks for that submission. It looks great to me. Just a couple of questions. One, in relation to terminology, the point you're making about terminology, did you guys meet with them before they put this thing out?
They sent us the draft provisions a few months in advance, and so we did have an initial meeting with them and provided some initial feedback, but we actually never heard sort of back from them in between that and notification. So some of our feedback was sort of taken on board from that initial discussion, but some of it hadn't been. So
I think your concepts of thresholds to me that they didn't pick up on what you were telling them, basically, because I totally agree with what you're saying. And then the other point is, yeah, I'm also very strongly in support of your comments about the proportion of impervious surface in the city. I'm still unable to understand where that figure came from and what the scientific justification for it is. And as I live in a suburb where I back onto a gully and I see the flashiness of the streams and gullies in Hamilton City, I'm pretty sure they've got that figure wrong. That's the main point I'd make. So thanks for focusing in on that. And I'll be really interested to hear how you get on with that discussion in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Downard.
Yeah, when I read this report, it kind of went back to the CDM workshop and how important, this work is done, and us putting in submissions to TAs to alleviate that. I'm not an IT person, but from, exactly what Bruce said, I hope that we are proactive in making sure that TAs, don't create a problem for a community later on down the track. And I think it was even brought up in the presentation from NZTA with the new Southern Links proposal that's coming out, flooding and water, where it was going to go, that comes into that. So yeah, I'm quite interested that any submissions that go in relating to flooding or weather events even can be passed on, to so we know what's happening in the areas to each councillor, as well, because I think that's important.
That usually comes through in the strategy and policy submissions report, doesn't it? Yeah, with the map where each councillor can see constituency wise what's happening.
But Madam Chair, even in Stratton Poll, I've asked someone that even if it affects, that submission's going in, even though we can read it there, it's quite good that it's just, followed on to that councillor in that area, because we do get a lot of ratepayers that say, oh, what's happening with the subdivision, we haven't got the infrastructure to maintain it. So it's kind of good to see the perspective of Waikato Regional Council coming in there and saying, yeah, we have put a submission in to it.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Mine relates to page 105, definition of depression area. Having been through a complete district plan change, which took several years, definitions really worry me because this is retrofitting into the city. So my question is really, because I probably haven't got a lot of issues with the wording, but mapping of depression areas. It's saying mapping has been taken out, and I suspect that's in relation to flood prone areas. But when people get worried about limb reports and what goes on their file for their properties and the likes, if someone's in a small depression, do they come within a depression definition, or are they? It's clarity. So I'd just like to ask you to emphasise the clarity in potential mapping of depression areas if they haven't already included it, because I couldn't see anywhere where the depression areas. People need certainty, and a whole lot of gobbledygook in a district plan gets people more upset than it does clarity at times. Thank you.
In terms of the mapping, so the maps are being removed from the district plan, but the maps that the district plan now refers to will be much more detailed, and I think it covers like 95% of the city, where the previous maps only covered 15 or something. So there are more detailed maps, and it will cover depression areas. Our comment on the definition was about trying to acknowledge the differences. There can be sort of smaller depression areas, more important. Yeah. Yes, that's my understanding, that the different types of flood hazards, including depression areas. Yeah, my understanding.
All right, so since there are no suggested changes to this submission, can I suggest, no, Jennifer, I did hear you move. Are you happy for us to just go with the lodgement?
Yep.
Since there's no amendments. Do I have a second for that? Councillor Clarkson? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hear you were a last minute ring in, so well done. Good job. Okay, now we've got item 7.3. This is on page 109 of your agendas, the implication of North Island severe weather events for Waikato Regional Council. Now, as I understand, Mr. Chief Executive, I'll get you to speak to this. This was a request that came through that councillors have a summary of the key points of the workshops that we've been taken through, but I'll let you speak.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. That's my understanding. Just like to indicate, I don't have any of the key staff here today. You may or may not be aware that one of the senior leadership team members in ICM, her partner, passed away unexpectedly in the last 2 or 3 days. And so they're off supporting her at a funeral type arrangements at the moment. So unfortunately, I don't have anyone to speak to it. But there has been the 2 workshops that you've worked through. It was requested that a summary of those workshops come back here today. That's there, so happy if there's any comments or questions, might have to take them away and come back if there is any detail.
I'm not sure who was, I've got Councillor Nicol first, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Nicol.
No, I'm really happy that those were the workshops where we'd started opening up workshops as well. So if anybody wants to see them, they're on available. My question I had was, community resilience is the last row that's in that table. I was just wondering, is that, because I didn't ask at the workshop, is that defined anywhere? What community resilience actually means, or is that defined per location anywhere? Or, and if not, you can just take that away and come back sometime.
We might take that offline. We'll
Thank
just
you.
take note of the points of clarification that councillors are seeking, and then we will distribute those.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
Councillor Smith.
So when the
happy to move
North Island events took place with the Hawke's Bay and the likes, Gisborne, I asked Greg to be alert for the reports, and I met with him several times, and this came up. And that's where the request came from to bring it back to council. But I note at page 109, number 4, that it talks about, and most importantly, the initiatives currently underway to address these. What I would like to see, particularly in light of the recent decision in Southland where an environmental agency took council to task and has had a judgment against the Southland Council for not acting as they should. This is really important. I think that council gets regular reports against what the initiatives are and how we're progressing, so as to demonstrate that council is proactively responding to this work and the needs here. So to protect council, but also to ensure that we as councillors are ensuring our communities have that resilience, etc. That's outlined here. So that would be my request, and then I'd be happy to second the resolution, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I agree with
Nice.
that too.
So another
And further
point we'll feedback is how we will incorporate that ongoing reporting of progress against these items that have been identified.
something like quarterly.
Yeah, and we'll find the right place for those to come in, whether it's a CEDAM or I don't, we'll figure it out. We'll get a recommendation as to the appropriate place for that ongoing reporting to come back through. Councillor Hughes.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Late last year, Government Audit did a review of the Waikato region councillors, and I'm not sure how many people involved in that, on our awareness and readiness for these weather events. And I just wonder, have we received a report back from them yet, or if not, when do we expect that?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Hughes. That's a really good point. So they've got, no, we haven't received it yet. They're doing 3 councils, and I understand that they are wanting to report back by mid-year, or report that up through their official channels. I'm hopeful that we'd see a draft report about our council before then, just to check facts are correct and whatever. But to this point in time, no, we haven't seen it.
Okay, thank you.
And that's my understanding, yeah.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I make a suggestion that this item lays on the table until the next council meeting? I just think it'd be really handy to actually hear from the author. I've got some questions and happy to send those back through to Greg and I'm sure other councillors can, some of their things that have been raised, but I just think it'd be helpful if it lay on the table till next council meeting.
We can do that, and also we can incorporate some of that thinking when it comes back to council.
Yeah, that suits me too.
So we don't need to do. Okay, but we don't need a motion. Just to leave it lie on the table. Okay. All right. So happy, Councillor Nicol, Councillor Smith, for this to lie on the table and then received. Nice. And.
Sounds good.
Fantastic. And hopefully that will come back at our March meeting. All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And please do extend our sympathies to our staff member in her loss. All right. We'll now move to item 7.4. This is on page 114. This is the appointment of co-chair and deputy co-chair of the combined co-governance committee for the Waikato, WAIPA, and Nauai o Maniapoto rivers and their catchments on the freshwater plan review. Over to you, Bruce.
Morning, everyone. I'll just take my report as read, if I may. One change to the report is that the first meeting of the Waikato Committee is now on the 4th of April after discussing with iwi, our iwi partners, the timing of the committee meeting. They've asked that it be changed to the 4th of April. So that's the one change to my report. But otherwise, happy to.
Right. I think I've got Councillor Nicol first and then Councillor
question.
Strange.
Is, how are we looking in regards to the appointments being made to this from the River Iwi side?
Yes,
Is that going to be?
That's going to be come at the
sorted
first.
by then?
Yes, that'll come at the first meeting. By the first meeting, yes.
So we've got members lined
Yes,
up for all of them?
they're lining up members from their appointees. Yes.
Yes. So I haven't heard a lot of chat about this, but and I only read my agenda late last night. But I was going to suggest that, or nominate that Bruce Clarkson be the co-chair. I think the deputy chair of council would be a really good way to show our commitment to this committee, and Councillor Noel Smith is deputy co-chair. I had thought about whether the committee could select their own, like the River we were doing at the first meeting, but then Tracy pointed me in the direction of the terms of reference that are already agreed, and so the expectation is there that under 6.2 the co-chair be elected member appointed by council, and then yeah, so it's well, it could have been nice to have both elected at the time. Based on that, those were my suggestions. So I was just going to move that.
This approach would be consistent with the way we have appointed.
Yeah,
other.
apparently it's quite consistent.
Yeah.
So I won't rock the boat of changing things.
Got it. Councillor Strange.
Yeah, just want to echo Councillor Nicol's thoughts and nominations. So happy to second.
Any other comments or discussion or nominations? No. All right. So we've got a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, how are we going? We happy to continue on? People feeling all right? Nice. Okay. Item 7.5, this is on page 120 of your agenda. So this is another request to regional council to nominate to a new animal ethics committee. We had a fair few conversations about this, and I do wonder how many of these animal ethics committees are going to continue to come up that we need to come up with nominations for. And so I'm sure that we'll discuss that a little bit, just noting for councillors that I believe an email has been distributed that Stu Husband has expressed an interest in this nomination. So I don't know who is speaking.
I'll just make a comment about it, and Marty might make any comments about our policy. But this has come as a bit of a surprise, this one, because, whereas there's a couple of, university research type organisations who have done this, and it's a requirement, and you might have read in some of the requirements in there that to seek nomination that they get it from a territorial authority or a regional council nominate someone. I know that MPI push these people to go to the regional council, so it's not just a view from one particular part of the region. But this is kind of more like a private company, that's doing this type of work, and I guess that, so they've been told yes, they need to go through the same process. Hence, we've got it on our books, and so the chair, myself, and Marley, we did some discussion about, gosh, if this could come up any time on a regular basis, is there a simpler way of doing this? Hence, one of the recommendations that, as you did, I think, at the start of the triennium. You might want to just comment on that, Marley, and anything else that councillors might like to consider.
Thanks, Chris. You've covered off the key points around the specific legislation that requires any group that establishes itself as a code holder to then establish an animal ethics committee. They must appoint a committee with no less than 4 members, and one of those members must be nominated by either a regional council or a territorial authority. As Chris said, it's MPI's recommendation that these groups come through to the regional council. In the past, we've had long-standing animal ethics committees with education institutes like the university and Wintec. And so we do appoint to those on a regular basis. But any organisation can go ahead and set itself up. And so it is unknown with regard to how many of these requests may come through. The process that we follow is to put together a report to council and seek the nomination from yourselves. Because council holds that decision-making authority, we believe that there's probably an easier way to do this. It is relatively minor in our opinion, and so we're seeking that council actually delegate that decision to the chairperson and the CE. We've also put forward a couple of other options for you to consider. You might want to hold on to the delegation, and if that's the case, we've gone ahead and we've contacted the 2 individuals that you've nominated to the 2 existing animal ethics committees. And Barry Quayle has come back and confirmed that yes, he's interested, he's available if you would like to nominate him. We've also received interest from Stu's husband that he too is keen to take on nominations, so that's a consideration for you also. And the last option we've put forward is to decline making a nomination altogether. So those are the 3 options on the table. As stated, our preference is actually to put a delegation in place to make this process far more efficient.
Councillor Cookson?
Oh, no, I'll leave my question to later.
Councillor Smith. Oh, sorry. Wait a
Sorry,
minute.
I was late.
I've got Councillor Nicol, and then Councillor Kneebone, and then Councillor Smith.
Okay. Yeah, reading this, I do recall having this come to us previously, but for a different ethics committee, animal ethics committee, and that was the time when we put Barry on that one. I do think it's small fry. It's not something I want to spend time reading, and I frankly don't feel that qualified for anyway. But if it was the chair and the CE, I'm really happy with that. So I did actually happen to give Barry a call this morning because I said to him, I saw your name in here, I thought I'd give you a call. And he indicated to me that this is a type of animal ethics committee that doesn't meet very often apparently and is highly technical. So that's what made me say the previous thing. And so I would just move 1 and 2 to delegate if hopefully people are happy with that. Then I'm happy for Pamela and Chris to
delegate for this decision.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy also with Barry. He's done a good job over the last few years. We could do 3 as well, but I'm just happy for you to delegate it to you guys.
Are you moving that?
Yep, that was my intention.
Do we have a seconder for that approach?
Don't know.
Sure, I'll indicate that I'm going to move an amendment.
You can also chat to me about it. I might change it.
What? Sorry, Stu, did you have a, no?
Question.
Thank you.
Answered by Jen, yeah.
I just have asked myself, is this our core business? And I've talked to Barry, I think just after we came into being as a council, we dealt with his nomination. So it's 3 years. And he talked about the technical nature of it, etc. I just wonder whether it's our core business and whether we shouldn't even be included. So I'd like to move that we decline to make a nomination and invite the organisation to seek representation from some other regional council. And seek a seconder, please.
Some other regional, we're the
Well,
only
you know,
regional council.
yeah, another council. Yeah. So I don't think we need to be in this business.
Happy to second. Councillor Mahuta.
Thank you, Tipper.
Sorry, did you have another?
Yeah, it was just to understand the reasoning, just keen to understand how much does this affect us other than picking someone when we're asked? Like, is it resource intensive or not? Is kind of where I'm going.
I think that,
and why do they pick us rather than someone else, do you think?
they pick us because we have the biggest mandate in the region. You know, they can go to a territorial, but often the work that they're doing goes beyond a particular district. That's my understanding. And so
And the resource
we
people?
naturally are the ones that they tend to go to. I think that through the delegation, we're able to
decline whenever you want anyway, right?
Yeah,
well.
exactly. We could decline, or if there was one we felt particularly, I don't know, an affinity to, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Then that would open up that opportunity.
Okay. Well, either way, I'm happy for you two to decide that, not me.
Councillor Kneebone.
It's just a question now. I did not, I thought I understood where you were coming from, but then you said give it to another regional council. Then I got a bit more confused because I thought just that it's based here, so it seems logical that we would be the regional council. But and look, my views are that. Okay.
Got enough things to worry about for our ratepayers.
So to me, if
Other than it is the requirement to have a territorial.
Yeah, I think if my
amendment.
Yeah.
So my thought is if we delegate it, then those two can always decline it. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, my expectation is that if it gets too time consuming, you'll come back and say, can we get rid of that?
If I could just make one other comment. So some of this is for research, but I know that, for example, with the university in Wintec, some of it's to teaching. They can't actually teach if they don't have a committee in place. If they don't, and to get a committee in place, they've got to follow the legal process to do it, and it's kind of the legal process. So I just make that comment.
Right. Yeah, happy to pull the. Oh, sorry, she's.
Yeah, I'm happy to abandon it, Tipper. If let's get it off the books.
Trafo, with the clarity of the being able to turn things down, because I just don't want a flood of things. I'm happy to support that as well. Kia ora.
Great. All right. I think we've probably, Councillor, sorry, I had Councillor Marr and then I had.
Bruce.
Okay.
I think Bruce.
But just clarifying, so where we're at right now is we've got a motion moved and seconded to delegate.
Yeah.
And then that means that the chair of council and the chief executive can either nominate or decline as seen fit. Councillor Clarkson, then Councillor Marr, then Councillor Cookson. But let's just think about how much we need to
do. And now that Noel's withdrawn, I think we're in a fine position. Thank you.
Councillor Marr.
Thank you. I'm in a little bit of disagreement. I think this is a really simple process for us. We have everybody around the table right now. What may come in the future, we can deal with in the future. We're dealing with this one application right now. We have two people that have indicated that they would accept nominations, so it's been spoken to. I put my weight behind Stu Husband. He's, animal husbandry and all that sort of background, and that he's indicated through his email he has the capacity, being time, etc. So I'd rather see us making a nomination and let it go through its process.
So that would be an amendment to this?
That would be an amendment
to nominate Stu Husband.
Well, that's allowing the council to
No,
nominate.
because, yeah,
Which is an
it
option
approves a
before-
standing delegation. But as was recommended in this, as part of that motion, it could be I don't know. Counselor-
It speaks to
or, I mean,
option,
sorry,
option two.
Counselor Molly.
Yeah. It speaks to option 2 in our paper, but
Yeah.
I'm just putting Stu's name instead of Barry's name in there. And not talking to a future delegation at this stage.
Name a person, it's to the contrary, so.
Yes, or.
Thank you for the tricky questions. Given that the first resolution on the table is to approve a standing delegation, and what Councillor Ma, I understand you're suggesting is not to delegate and then go forward and make a nomination. It is a direct negative. And so let's deal with what's on the table. And if it's lost, we'll then go to the resolution that has been foreshadowed by Councillor Mayor.
All right. So we've got a, sorry? I'm lost, Molly.
Are we going to start with the first recommendation on the table that the delegation is given to the chairperson and the chief executive? If that is lost, then the motion on the table is that Stu Husband is nominated.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hello.
If we move, then I think we should put both names up, you know, Barry Quayle and Stu Husband, and then we will vote on who we want in it. Because what's happening is that we're getting rid of someone who's been there for 3 years. He's already indicated, hold on, he's indicated he wants to be there. We're going to go to the council that we nominate the person that we put up,
That is
but
not
you've
what's
only got
happening.
the one person.
That is not what's happening, Councillor Hodge.
That's what's happening.
No, Barry Quayle will remain the council's nominee on the Ag Research Animal Ethics Committee. So he remains in that position. The person, Douglas Phillips, remains in the WinTech position. This is a third position. This is a new position. So we are not removing a position from Barry Quayle. I keep wanting to call him Councillor Quayle. We're not removing a position from Barry Quayle. This is a third new position.
My apologies. Therefore, why can't we stick with option 1? Because option 2 is not an option, because she just said that Barry Quayle is already a nominee for a different area. We're looking at the one that's for this ethnic group now. So isn't there a difference then? Option 2 should stay. There shouldn't be option 2 because Barry's already there. Option 1, why can't we leave it to these two to pick whether Stu is the one or not? How to take on around this?
Those are the options that are before us.
That's right. There's a number of options. It just so happens that there are differences in opinion, and so we will just have to work through the decision-making process until we get to an outcome. So first one on the table is to delegate. If that is lost, we'll move on to the next.
I would support a delegation if I can, because it is to me. I would support a delegation because these have come up, and so that's my position.
Just a quick part.
Are we going to speak in order, Madam Chair?
Yes, we've got Councillor Cookson.
Sorry, Stu.
And then we've
Get in line.
and then Councillor Kneebone.
I was just going to ask for a digital recorded if we we're going to do a vote, so that's all I was asking.
Councillor Strange.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wonder, this is a good problem to have. We've got two people who are wanting to be on these committees. So if the delegation is approved, then we've got people to work with moving forward. And both have had experience on regional council. So I think we're in a good place. And I'm happy with the delegation as well. But yeah, I think just moving straight to one name in this environment, yeah, it's just let's remove some of those things moving forward. So yeah, I think delegation's a great idea.
Councillor Kneebone, then Councillor Mahuta.
Oh,
Or,
it's just a quick- yeah.
but did you just take your hand down? Just. Anyways.
No, I
oh,
just heard you put me in line, so I'm
Okay.
happy to be in line. Thank you.
Councillor Kneebone.
I'm assuming it's just a nomination and the body itself retains the right to accept it or reject it and ask for another one.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Councillor Mahuta.
I just note that we, whatever the entity is that we're nominating for, that we run a process and not a closed process is being suggested now. So I support the delegation. Kia ora.
All right. So I take the motion first. Yes? Oh, sorry.
It's all right. I know I'm in the dead zone. That's okay.
Councillor Clarkson.
That's why I waved. Yeah, look, I support delegation too, because the late moment nature of one of the applications, and I am not in a position to, you know, some claims are made in the email about qualification and all the rest, but I would prefer a proper process where people give the documentary evidence for the people who are going to be delegated to make the decision. So I'm for the delegation.
All right. I've got a mover and a seconder for delegation. All those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Very good. Good morning, everyone. As you're no doubt aware, you are voting on two parts that we've put together. One is the receipt of the report. One is that you are voting whether or not to approve a standing delegation to allow the Chair of Council and the Chief Executive to nominate persons to animal ethics committees when requested to do so, noting that they could decline to nominate if they so wish. So I'll call your names. Can you please indicate if you vote for, against, or abstain from the motion? And please use your mics. Councillor Clarkson.
Support.
Councillor Cookson.
Against.
Councillor Downard.
Against.
Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Abstain.
Councillor Graff.
Oppose.
Councillor Hodge. Councillor Hughes.
Against.
Councillor Kneebone.
Support.
Councillor Ma.
Oppose.
Councillor Mahuta.
Support.
Councillor Nicol.
Moved it. Support.
Councillor Smith. Councillor Story.
Support.
Councillor Strange.
Support.
The motion is carried 7 votes to 5 with 1 abstention. 2 abstentions, sorry. Seven. No, never. I'd never.
Kia ora. All right. Thank you for that, councillors. We'll now move on to our last item. Is that? Okay, sorry, it's our last item in open, and then we will have to go into a closed session. So this is item 7.6 on page 150. This is in regards to the Waikato River Authority nomination. Marley.
Another nomination process. But what we're proposing here isn't to delegate a decision to the chair or the CE. We are seeking a nomination from this group to the Crown with regard to appointees to the Waikato River Authority. Just really quickly, it's well known amongst this group who and what the Waikato River Authority is. It's an independent statutory board. It's established through deeds between the Crown and 5 river iwi, Waikato Tainui, Ngāti Wharetoa, Arawa River Iwi Trust, Aukawa, and Maniapoto. You're all more than aware of the role of the Waikato River Authority, but just touching really quickly on the structure. The authority consists of 10 members. 5 of those members are appointed by the River Iwi, and then the other 5 are appointed by the Crown. One of those appointments from the Crown is, I guess, made with consideration of a nomination that is made from the Waikato Regional Council. That current appointment is about to lapse in May 2025, and so Minister Chris Bishop has asked the council to put forward a nomination. Just quickly, Councillor Stu Kneebone is our current nominee, and he is eligible for renomination. As is the case with the previous nomination we talked about, whilst we nominate, that nomination isn't guaranteed an appointment. The decision squarely sits with the Crown. Any questions?
Nice. I do, Councillor Mahuta, I do note your chat, so I'll come to you first. I do note your chat as well, Councillor Hodge. Councillor.
Point of order.
Note.
It's my understanding. Councillor Mahuta, did you?
Sorry, I was noting the point of order. I'm waiting to hear it.
Thank you, Councillor Mahuta. Yeah.
What point? What point?
Point of order, Madam Chair. There is a speaking order. It is recorded on our mics. I noticed Councillor Mahuta came in after the mics were turned on by myself and also Councillor Clarkson.
I don't timestamps on the lights, but.
Well,
happy to wait, Chair, if that makes it easy.
Sorry, what was that, Councillor Mahuta?
I'm happy to allow the process in chambers because I know I'm virtual. I'm happy to wait for my turn. Thank you.
So, like I said, I don't have timestamps on the lights, and I have a timestamp on the chat, but Councillor Marr.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Again, just noting our item that we've just gone through. I am aware that there are 2 nominations, possible nominations for this position. So if we're going to go through the process we did last time, I'd like to nominate Councillor Leonard.
Is there okay. What we'll do is I will call for nominations. I note your nomination. Do I have a second for Councillor Downard?
Second.
Are there any further nominations? Councillor Mahuta? No, I'm calling for nominations, and then we will speak to the nominations. And I note Councillor Mahuta made a nomination, so I'm just going to her to speak to that nomination, or to make that nomination. Councillor Mahuta?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Council for your patience. I without hesitation, support the nomination of Councillor Stu Kneebone to continue on the River Authority. My experience, having been a River Authority member, is he's brought council good standing in the role, while not compromising the position of the River Authority. the role requires extensive relationship with iwi and experience in working with the matters that not only form the Waikato restoration strategy, but the impact of PC1 and other things. And I totally support Councillor Nebone because I'm aware of his capacity in these areas. So kia ora.
And I do note in the chat, Councillor Hodge, you seconded that. All right, so we have 2 nominations. Do we have any further nominations?
Can I see clarity, please? Did
Sure.
Councillor Downard second himself, or was that a mistake? Thought so.
Yeah.
I thought so. Thank you.
Yes. Numbers and words today. All right, we have 2 nominations. Councillor Clarkson, did you want to make a further nomination?
I wanted to take the privilege of nominating Councillor Nebone, and I had my light up
Sorry.
before anything else was up on that.
Sorry.
And so
Sorry.
I want to take that privilege.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm just reiterating some of the comments that were made by Tipper. I believe that he is the most eminently qualified of any of the people in the room here today, and we really should be supporting his nomination. And I know that there may possibly be some argument about that from some people, but we remember we did receive some legal advice on this, and we paid a lot of money for that legal advice, and I think we should follow the advice and we should nominate Councillor Nebone. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for that. Now, since we have 2 nominations, I am going to go to those nominees to speak to their nomination. So I'll come to you first, Councillor Downard, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Nebone.
Greatest respect, Madam Chair. Have we not heard from the mover or seconders, or are they reserving their right to speak at the end? Because understanding orders, they should speak to the nomination.
So Councillor Mahuta has. Councillor Marr, did you want to speak to the nomination?
I'll take that option now. Thank you. Yes, no, acknowledging the work that Stu has done in this space. Councillor Downard came to me. He's very, very keen to move into that space. Noting Bruce's point around the legal definition that we got, that was for a councillor, it wasn't specific, so it stands to reason that any councillor can sit in that space. It wasn't specific to Councillor Nebone. So the Waikato River certainly is a big part of Councillor Downard's area, and I believe he would be a good person in that space for us around this council, and a little bit of new blood and fresh eyes. Thank you.
All right. The seconders. Am I getting? I'm looking to you, Councillor Smith. Keep me in line here. The seconders. Oh, yeah. Now you lean back. The seconders. Do you want to hold your comment, or do you want to speak now? Hold it. All right. I am going to go to each of the nominees, though. Councillor Downard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I appreciate what Councillor Clarkson has said, and I endorse everything that Councillor Nebone has done in the past, and obviously being a Waikato Regional Councillor for a very long time, and also on this authority. Yeah, I'm just keen to learn. You know, that's why when I first came into Waikato Regional Council, I put my name forward as Deputy Chair. I'm keen to get my teeth into stuff and try and do the best I can. And I do believe that the Waikato River is a big part of my area and follows down. And I've on the 3 GMAs. So yeah, I just think that as Councillor Marr said, it just gives new eyes onto it. And yeah, I think I'd do a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Downard. Councillor Nebone.
Yeah, no, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to those that are supporting me, nominating me to this this position, and acknowledge the democratic process as well. So look, not wanting to tell people stuff that they already know about me, but my background to joining this council was through catchment management, through a stream care group originally, and then a pest control group. I've chaired ICM for a number of years. Prior to that, I've had a pretty extensive involvement in river restoration and riparian restoration, both from a hands-on perspective on my own personal capacity and also via the various governance roles I've had in this council. I think I've had a lot of experience with working with iwi and in co-governance, as has been noted, chairing the Health Rivers Waikato Committee. When we initiated Plan Change 1, I understand Plan Change 1 very well. I've obviously been on the River Authority for a few years, so I understand how the authority works, and I think I've demonstrated an ability to work very, very constructively with our iwi counterparts. In terms of my academic qualifications, I obviously belong to the IOD. I also completed the Mā Te Kahukura Kareri Te Manu course last year, which is a Crown entity governance course delivered by Iti Kōpura Public Governance Aotearoa, and that was a course set up to specifically for those involved in governing Crown entities. The River Authority isn't a Crown entity as such, but most of the content of that course was pretty applicable to the River Authority. And I also have a level 6 diploma in Taureo Māori as well, so pretty comfortable in that environment. So yeah, look, I'll leave it there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. The seconders, did they want to speak to their seconding of the nomination?
I'm happy to do so. If I don't think it's necessary. I think these guys spoke for themselves pretty well. Okay.
Just giving you the option.
Yeah. Okay. The reason I second Stu was, believe it or not, I was instrumental in putting him up in the first place. That's one thing. The second thing is we went through the Plan Change 1 together on Healthy Rivers. So Bruce, as Bruce said, you know, he's one of the most experienced on here, but he's not actually. There's a few of us on here that went through that. They have a real new CEO in WRA right now. And it'll be really sad for him to have to learn the ropes as well, try and work with a brand new governance entity above him. And I think Stu, you know, he was our nominee that me and Russell put up in our time, and I think he's done a good job up to date. He's managed to co-chair with a few people, and that's a big job in itself when you're changing people to co-chair with you. He's actually had 3. You know, there was Paula, and then there was Paula, Tipper, and now he's got a new one. So he's done very well. You know, so there's nothing against anybody else. You know, that's why I second him.
Do you want to speak now, or you want to hold? Because there is a speaking order. Just wanting to make sure I've got everybody. I've got Councillor Strange, Graff, Nicol, and Smith. Do you want to speak? Okay. Councillor Strange. Nope. Councillor Graff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to point out also that Councillor Downard has been Deputy Mayor of Taupo for, I think, a couple of terms, so very experienced in the region. And he works a lot in the community down there. So just that said, but I'd also like to call for a division, please.
All right, Councillor Nicol.
Yeah, thanks. Kataraina actually covered a lot of the things that I had, because I appreciate the interest in having fresh eyes come to it. But I note that, you know, it's a nomination, and last time the nomination was made, the minister actually decided to make Councillor Kneebone a co-chair, you know, of that. And just having witnessed a little bit from the sides, all of those changes that Kataraina has mentioned, and having just appointed a new CEO, I'm guessing about 6 months ago, that's my reasoning for why I would like that consistency to continue, should Minister Bishop obviously agree to some of the status quo stuff. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
question, page 150, bullet point 8, talks about how the River Authority is made up, one of whom is appointed following recommendation of Regional Council. I'd like to know a little bit more about whether who else can nominate, who else does nominate, and so some of the people who are Crown nominees are unknown to me, but that's not an issue. So I become, is it Tamale or someone that, how do we actually get, how does the minister get the nominations? Where do they come from? And where, I suppose, we're only invited to do one. I think that's correct, isn't it? So where do the other nominations come from?
Look, I don't have the information at my fingertips, but I can
Councillor, I
other
believe Councillor Kneebone.
territorial authorities
I can answer
that
it, if
are
I can answer.
asked to make nominations as well.
Yeah, so Marley's correct. There's a nomination for the territorial authorities. Hence, it was Paula Southgate. In my first 3 years now, it's Susan O'Regan, and quite how that process works within the TAs, I'm not privy to. And there's our one. There are also 3 appointees at large, and so the minister runs a public nomination process that closed last week, I think. It was open for a couple of weeks. It's advertised in the newspaper. It was all over the River Authority Facebook profile as well. So it's a public process. Yep. And I it just for clarity's sake, I submitted a nomination as an individual with no reference to any regional council endorsement or otherwise. Yeah.
Councillor Cookson, did you want to speak to your second now?
Yeah, why I second Mike was that in the 2.5 years now that I've known Mike, he's always turned up to every single meeting, when it's hard or the weather events that he's gone through to get here and the times it takes with the traffic and the thing. Mike's always the first one here in the morning, and he's normally puts in that extra mile every single damn time. So his effort and his ability to be here and his willingness to listen to the conversation has been outstanding in the 2.5 years that we've been here. When I've worked with him on the one JMA that we're on, he's always a contributor to that. And since he's been a councillor in here at the region, that we've even got some foreshore work done in Taupo, he's always after the better outcomes of what communities want. So, and I respect him for that. He does it. He does all that work in the background. It's never, he doesn't want to be the face of anything. So he's hard working in the background all the time. So I thought it was important that I second and I fully support Michael and his aspirations of being on the River Authority. Thank you.
All right. I think we've heard from anybody who wants to speak. So if a division has been called, because we've got 2 nominations, when you call the division, how do we indicate? Is it you just say the name? Is that what the process would be here, Molly?
Yes, I think that would be the most efficient process. Thanks, Dave, for suggesting that. So rather than going around twice and asking for each of you to indicate for and against for the individual nominees, let's go around once and indicate either Downard or Kneebone.
All right.
Right, let's see how the counting goes this time.
Wait a minute. Did we need to have, no, we've got, just want to make sure. So then once we go through this, then that goes another
Then we'll
second.
So as discussed, I'll call your names. Please use your mics and indicate whether you are supporting Councillor Downard or Councillor Kneebone for the nomination. Councillor Clarkson?
Kneebone.
Councillor Cookson?
Downer.
Councillor Downard?
Myself, Downard.
Councillor Dunbar-Smith?
Downard.
Councillor Graff?
Councillor Downard,
Councillor Hodge, Councillor Hughes,
Downard,
Councillor Kneebone,
Kneebone.
Councillor Ma,
Downard.
Councillor Mahuta,
Thank both nominees and support Councillor Kneebone.
Councillor Nicol,
Yeah, same, Kneebone.
Councillor Smith, Councillor Story,
Councillor Kneebone.
Councillor Strange.
Kneebone.
Nomination will be Councillor Kneebone by 8 votes to 6.
Can I just, Madam Chair, say congratulations to Councillor Kneebone and thank you for the people that believe in me. Thank you.
Kia ora.
No, e miha hoki as well, so tēnā tātou katoa i tō tautokotanga ki au. Yeah, thank you very much for the support. Yeah, and acknowledge Mike in the process here.
Can I just say something? Stu, I think what we've just done is nominated you back into WRA, but that doesn't say you're the co-chair. That
No,
happens when you go
you
back.
haven't nominated me to the WA. You've not.
Yeah.
You've given a nomination that will go to Chris Bishop. Yeah. And
Yes.
I don't know that he's necessarily obliged to. I don't know how much weight he's obliged to put on it, but yeah.
All right. So now we have a motion.
I think we're done.
Are we done? We don't have to do we have to receive the report though, or? So we've got to receive the report and nominate. Keep that in, yeah. All right. Would somebody like to move that? Councillor Clarkson, would somebody like to second that? Councillor Smith? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you very much, councillors, for your participation in that process. Okay, we now need to move into public excluded.
Happy to second.
Councillor Marr, second, and Councillor Cookson. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So we'll now move into public excluded for one item.